I just replaced my $500 Cambridge audio integrated amplifier with a $70 Chinese Class D amp, and my studio monitors sound better. Not slightly better. Legitimately, measurably, audibly better, with cleaner transients, tighter bass control, and a blacker noise floor. I spent weeks of B testing because I couldn't believe a budget amplifier costing 1/7 the price could outperform a respected British hi-fi brand. But the measurements don't lie, and my ears confirmed it. Here's what the audio industry doesn't want you knowing. Amplifier technology has reached the point where $70 to $130 Class D designs from brands you've never heard of deliver transparent, accurate power that matches or exceeds premium integrated amps costing 5 to 10 times more. The difference isn't subtle, it's real, measurable, and exposes how much of premium audio pricing is brand markup rather than actual performance. Before I show you the exact amplifiers that deliver professional studio sound for pocket change and explain why this happened, hit that subscribe button and drop a like if you want honest audio advice that challenges expensive gear myths. And tell me in the comments, what amplifier are you using to power your studio monitors or speakers right now? And how much did you pay for it? Let me explain why budget amplifiers suddenly got so good, because this wasn't always the case. 10 years ago, cheap amplifiers sounded cheap. They had audible distortion, noisy backgrounds, poor channel separation, and generally did everything worse than premium amplifiers. You genuinely got what you paid for, and spending $500 to $1,000 on a quality integrated amplifier from NAD, Cambridge Audio, or Rotel made sense because the performance difference was obvious. The Class D revolution. What changed is Class D amplifier technology reaching maturity. Class D amplifiers work differently than traditional Class A or Class AB designs. Instead of continuously varying the output signal to match the input, Class D amplifiers switch rapidly between fully on and fully off states thousands of times per second, using pulse width modulation to recreate the audio waveform. This switching approach is incredibly efficient, converting over 90% of input power into output power instead of wasting 50% or more as heat like traditional amplifiers do. Early Class D designs from the 1990s and 2000s sounded harsh and digital because the switching frequencies and filter designs weren't sophisticated enough. But modern Class D chips from companies like Texas Instruments, Infineon, and IC Power deliver measurements that equal or exceed traditional amplifier topologies. We're talking total harmonic distortion under 0.003%, signal-to-noise ratios exceeding 110 decibels, and frequency response flat from 5 Hz to 50 kHz. These are professional studio measurements that most vintage Class AB amplifiers cannot match. Chinese manufacturers like Fosi Audio, Ayima, SMSL, and Topping took these modern Class D chips and built minimalist amplifiers without expensive cabinets, elaborate marketing, or dealer networks. They sell directly online, eliminating middlemen and retail markups. The result is amplifiers that cost $70 to $130, delivering the same actual amplification performance as integrated amps costing $500 to $800. The premium brands are still using excellent components and engineering, but they're also paying for legacy business models with retail distribution, brand advertising, and profit margins that budget brands skip entirely. Understanding what amplifiers actually do. Before we dive into specific budget amplifiers, let's clarify what amplifiers do and what matters for performance. An amplifier's job is simple in concept, but demanding in execution. Take a low-voltage audio signal from your computer, phone, or mixing console and amplify it to high enough voltage and current to drive speaker drivers that need real power to move and create sound. The amplifier needs to do this without adding noise, distortion, or coloration that changes the original signal. For studio monitoring, this transparency is absolutely critical. You're making decisions about EQ, compression, and mixing based on what you hear, so you need speakers and amplifiers that accurately reproduce what's actually in the recording. Any coloration from the amplifier, whether boosted bass or rolled off treble or emphasized mid-range, causes you to make wrong mixing decisions that sound bad on other systems. This is why studio engineers traditionally spent serious money on amplification, because accuracy matters more than exciting sound. The key specifications that determine amplifier performance are power output measured in watts per channel, total harmonic distortion showing how much the amplifier changes the signal, signal to noise ratio indicating how quiet the background is, and damping factor showing how well the amplifier controls speaker driver movement. Budget Class D amplifiers now achieve professional-grade measurements in all these categories, despite costing a fraction of traditional amplifiers. Fosi Audio BT20A. Let's start with the Fosi Audio BT20A because it's the budget amplifier that shocked me most during testing. This tiny amplifier measures roughly 5 by 4 by 2 inches, weighs about a pound, and costs between $60 and $80 depending on sales. It's so small you can hold it in one hand, and it looks more like a phone charger than serious audio equipment. But this little black box delivers 100 watts per channel into 4 ohm speakers, which is more power than most people need for near-field studio monitoring or desktop listening. The BT20A uses a Texas Instruments Class D amplifier chip that's been proven in professional applications for years. The measurements are impressive with total harmonic distortion under 0.1% and signal to noise ratio over 100 decibels. What this means in practice is that the amplifier adds essentially no audible noise or distortion to the signal. You hear what's in your source material, not amplifier artifacts. The sound signature is punchy and dynamic, with particularly impressive bass control for such a small, inexpensive unit. When you play bass-heavy music or low-frequency effects, the Fosi grips speaker drivers tightly and starts and stops bass notes precisely instead of letting them blur together. This damping factor, the amplifier's ability to control driver movement, typically requires expensive amplification with massive power supplies. The Fosi achieves similar results through clever circuit design and modern Class D topology. Bluetooth 5.0 is built in, which matters more than you might think for studio work. Yes, Bluetooth compresses audio and isn't ideal for critical listening, but for referencing mixes on streaming services or playing background music while you work, having wireless connectivity built into your monitoring amp is incredibly convenient. The Bluetooth implementation in the Fosi is surprisingly good with aptX support that reduces latency and improves quality compared to basic Bluetooth. The inputs include standard RCA connectors for line-level sources and a 3.5mm auxiliary input for phones or portable devices. Speaker outputs use spring-loaded binding posts that accept bare wire or banana plugs. The whole package is dead simple with a volume knob, power switch, and input selector. There's no tone controls, no fancy display, no unnecessary features. It's an amplifier that amplifies, nothing more and nothing less. Where the Fosi stumbles is build quality and features compared to premium amplifiers. The chassis is lightweight plastic instead of machined aluminum. There's no remote control. The binding posts are basic spring terminals instead of high-quality 5-way posts. And you get exactly one pair of RCA inputs, so if you want to switch between sources, you're unplugging cables instead of pressing a button. For studio use, where you typically connect once and leave it, these limitations don't matter. For living room hi-fi, where you switch between sources frequently, they're more annoying. Topping P A3. The Topping P A3 takes a different approach by eliminating features entirely and focusing purely on amplification performance. This minimalist amplifier costs $100 to $130 and looks like a metal brick with volume knob, power LED, and speaker terminals. No Bluetooth, no multiple inputs, no tone controls. Just RCA input, speaker outputs, and volume. Topping built this amplifier for people who want the cleanest possible signal path without anything that could compromise sound quality. The measurements on the PA3 are exceptional, even by professional standards. Total harmonic distortion measures under 0.003%, which is approaching the limits of measurement equipment. Signal-to-noise ratio exceeds 115 decibels, creating a truly black background where noise is completely inaudible even at high volumes with sensitive speakers. Frequency response is ruler flat from 10 Hz to 30 kHz, meaning the amplifier doesn't emphasize or roll off any part of the audible spectrum. What this translates to in actual listening is transparency that rivals amplifiers costing thousands. The PA3 disappears sonically, letting you hear your speakers and source material without any amplifier signature. Transients like drum hits or plucked guitar strings have crisp attack and natural decay. Imaging is precise with instruments and voices locked in specific positions in the soundstage. Bass is tight and controlled without bloat or boominess. Treble extends cleanly without harshness or grain. Home studio engineers consistently report that the PA3 provides reference monitoring quality that lets them make accurate mixing decisions. You hear compression artifacts, EQ moves, and subtle production details that more colored amplifiers obscure. This matters enormously when you're trying to create mixes that translate well to different playback systems. If your monitoring chain adds its own coloration, you compensate during mixing, and your final product sounds wrong everywhere else. The PA3 outputs 80 watts per channel into 4 ohms, which is adequate for most near-field studio monitors operating at modest volumes. If you're mixing at levels exceeding 90 decibels or using particularly inefficient speakers, you might want more power. But for typical desktop studio setups with monitors positioned 3 to 5 feet from your listening position, 80 watts is plenty with headroom to spare. The obvious limitation is the lack of features. No Bluetooth means you need a separate device if you want wireless connectivity. No multiple inputs means you're connecting and disconnecting cables if you switch sources. No tone controls means you're relying entirely on your source equipment and speakers for tonal balance. For studio use, these aren't problems because you want pure amplification anyway. For casual listening where convenience matters, the PA3 feels austere. Ayuma A07. The Ayuma A07 represents the absolute budget end at $50 to $70 while still delivering legitimate studio performance. This is the amplifier that made me question everything I thought I knew about audio pricing because it costs less than dinner for two, but measures comparably to amplifiers costing 10 times more. The A07 uses a similar Texas Instruments Class D chip as the Fozy, but in an even more stripped-down package focused on maximizing performance per dollar. 100 watts per channel into 4 ohms gives you enough power for any realistic desktop monitoring scenario. The distortion figures are under 0.1%, and the signal-to-noise ratio exceeds 105 decibels. These measurements put the A07 in the same performance class as amplifiers from Cambridge Audio or NAD costing $500 to $600. The sound is clean, detailed, and neutral with particularly impressive low-frequency control that makes bass tight and articulate. Build quality is basic with a simple aluminum chassis and minimal cosmetics, but the circuit design is sophisticated with short signal paths, quality capacitors, and effective power supply filtering. The A07 runs cool even under sustained loads because of Class D efficiency, and it includes protection circuits that prevent damage from short circuits or overheating. These budget Chinese amplifiers might look cheap, but the engineering inside is legitimate. The A07 works perfectly for pairing with budget passive studio monitors, creating complete setups under $400 that deliver professional monitoring quality. Match the A07 with monitors like Yamaha HS5 equivalents or budget options from PreSonus or JBL, and you have a monitoring system that reveals production details and lets you make informed mixing decisions without spending thousands on active monitors with built-in amplification. SMSL's A300 sits in the middle of the budget range at $80 to $100 and adds build quality refinement without compromising measurements. The chassis is solid metal with premium feel, the volume knob has smooth resistance instead of feeling cheap, and the overall presentation suggests more expensive equipment. But the internal components and measurements are what matter, and the SA300 delivers 80 watts per channel with distortion under 0.005% and signal-to-noise ratio exceeding 110 decibels. The sound signature is balanced and detailed with crisp clarity across the frequency spectrum. Highs extend cleanly without brightness or grain. Mid-range is transparent and natural, making voices and instruments sound realistic. Bass is controlled and articulate without excessive warmth or bloat. The SA300 doesn't editorialize or add its own character. It simply amplifies the signal cleanly and gets out of the way, which is exactly what studio monitoring requires. Heat management is excellent with the Class D design running barely warm even after hours of use. This matters in small studio environments where excess heat from traditional Class A/B amplifiers raises room temperature and creates fan noise from cooling systems. The SA300 sits on your desk silently and coolly, never becoming an annoyance or distraction during long mixing sessions. The SA300 includes RCA and auxiliary inputs with front panel switching, making source management more convenient than single input designs. The binding posts are quality 5-way terminals that accept banana plugs, spade connectors, or bare wire securely. These details don't affect sound quality, but they improve user experience enough to justify the modest price premium over the IEMA. KnobSound NS10G. The KnobSound NS10G offers exceptional versatility at $70 to $90 with Bluetooth 5.0, multiple inputs, bass and treble controls, and remote control. It's ideal for dual-purpose setups combining studio monitoring and casual listening. It delivers clean, punchy sound with 100 watts per channel into 4 ohms and competitive distortion figures. The tone controls help compensate for room acoustics, while Bluetooth enables wireless playback for non-critical listening. The trade-off is slightly more colored sound than the purist topping PA3, with warmth and mid-range forwardness that's engaging but not perfectly neutral. For critical mixing, topping's transparency is preferable, but for casual production and music listening, the KnobSound's enhanced presentation sounds pleasing. Why these beat premium brands? Well-designed $70 Class D amplifiers deliver cleaner, more transparent amplification than $500 Class AB designs from 10 years ago. Budget amplifiers measure flatter frequency response, lower distortion, better signal-to-noise ratio, and comparable damping factor versus premium brands costing 5 to 8 times more. Premium brands charge for legacy business models, dealer networks, marketing, and brand heritage, not superior circuitry. The actual amplification in a $600 Cambridge audio amp doesn't cost more to manufacture than a $90 Fosi. Retail margins, advertising, and brand maintenance drive the price difference without improving performance. Premium brands build excellent amplifiers with thoughtful design and good support, but their amplification performance isn't better than budget Class D designs. You're paying for features, aesthetics, and brand reassurance rather than superior sound quality. Practical studio applications. Budget amplifiers excel in home studios. The topping PA3 at $130 with budget passive monitors at $250 creates a complete monitoring system under $400 with professional transparency. High signal-to-noise ratios reveal subtle details like reverb tails, compression artifacts, and EQ adjustments. Tight bass control and extended frequency response ensure accurate low-end translation. Transparent mid-range enables clear judgment of vocal clarity and instrument separation without coloration. These amplifiers paired with monitors featuring adequate low-frequency extension handle any genre cleanly. Users consistently report mixes that translate well across club systems, car audio, headphones, and streaming services. The limitations are power and room size. 80 to 100 watts per channel works perfectly for near-field monitoring, but won't fill large rooms or drive inefficient speakers to high volumes. For typical home studios with monitors 3 to 5 feet away at apartment-appropriate volumes, these provide ample power. Setting up for success. Match passive monitors at 4 to 8 ohm impedance with these amplifiers. Use quality 16-gauge speaker cables for runs under 10 feet, 14-gauge for longer distances. Invest savings from amplification into decent cables. Position monitors at ear level forming an equilateral triangle with your listening position. Place the amplifier wherever convenient with adequate ventilation. Connect your interface using quality shielded RCA cables. Set initial volume conservatively and adjust to comfortable monitoring levels. Operating at 30 to 50% volume is normal and provides headroom. Proper monitoring levels are typically 70 to 85 decibels. The bottom line on budget amplification. Budget brands using modern Class D technology deliver amplification matching or exceeding traditional premium brands at a fraction of the cost. This is measurable fact, not marketing hype. $70 to $130 amplifiers provide transparent, accurate, powerful amplification suitable for professional studio monitoring. You don't need $500 to $1,000 on integrated amplifiers unless you want specific features, aesthetics, or brand reassurance. Amplification quality is achieved at budget prices through modern technology and direct-to-consumer models, democratizing high-quality audio for home producers and audio enthusiasts. Allocate budget to quality monitors and acoustic treatment first, then spend minimum necessary on amplification that measures well. A topping P. A3 or Fosi BT20. A paired with $250 to $400 monitors delivers better results than $400 monitors with a $600 amplifier. If this comparison helped you understand amplifier pricing or choose budget gear, hit that like button, subscribe for honest audio testing challenging expensive gear myths, and comment which budget amplifier you'll try or what you're currently using in your studio.